Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to do an update on the WGA standoff, the stalemate in Hollywood. Hollywood is broken like this pencil.
Oh,
Some
snap your pencils.
Angry pencil snapping. They're so furious.
What did the pencil do to you?
Breaking their pencils. It's pencils down. It's pencils down in Hollywood right now.
Except most of them don't use pencils, but that's okay.
They don't. Yeah, so we talked about how they had a meeting on Friday. It was a bust. I'm hearing that the strikes might not end until like December.
That
at
bad?
This rate.
What?
It's pretty bad, but the biggest issue for the studios is the size of the writers' room.
Well, I don't blame them on that. They're not wrong on that one.
Now, there were some people out on Twitter that were making comments like, for those of you who think that we've got too many writers, you don't understand. It makes us overworked.
I understand.
And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
It makes you overworked.
Makes you overworked, yes. Because
they're like, sorry. If your market has room for 20 writers, mandating 40 isn't going to work. If you're cutting shows and you're cutting, how many projects you have, and you're cutting, even by a third. Like say you take a third of the projects and you cut it down because they can't afford them and they're not sustainable. That means there's a third less writers' jobs. Probably more than that, less writers' jobs. You can't mandate that you hire 2/3 more people.
No.
I mean, that's stupid. Nobody's going to do that. If a restaurant has room for 10 employees, they can't hire 30 because other people want to work there and want to work too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And I understand the more people you have, the easier it is for the individuals. Usually, sometimes those people are very difficult, and it does, give you more free time, whatever. And that's what they were talking about. Like, well, we need to have time to have a life, and we need to have a...
The more people you have, the more money the union gets.
That is exactly it. I hope some of you have been paying attention, because from my point of view, from my vantage point, I'm watching this. Your unions played right into the studio's hands. They wanted a reason to get rid of people and get rid of projects, and they just freaking gave it to them. They're like, yeah, we're going to go on strike right now when you guys are running out of money and canceling projects and complaining about how you're running out of money. That's a great time to ask for more money.
Well, I mean,
it's a great time.
Of things they're saying, I don't disagree with, like the AI issue.
The AI is an issue.
Raises and more fair, and then residuals and things like that. I think that's completely fair. Then you get to the writer's room, and then they're like, and that's where everybody's getting held up on it. Like, we want you to mandate. We wanted to give us all this, job security, more money, residuals for all the writers, and then all the writers, have to be employed.
Yeah.
That doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
To get more money, they might have to cancel more projects. Well, then that means some of you are gone. That's just how math works.
What is going to happen, and I said before, what's going to happen is, yes, when the strike is over, some of you will get more money. Some of you will get what you want, but there's going to be a lot fewer of you working because they're going to use it as a reason to cancel projects. And so let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants. Guys, you get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So this is coming from The Wrap. They're very invested in the goings-on in Hollywood because it does cover Hollywood, and they're also like, shit, what are we going to write about? There's no movies or TV shows. What are we going to talk about? Point. What are we going to talk about? Let's just write about the strike 50 times a day. So yeah, they said that they had this meeting, and it's is it Carol Lombardini, who's in charge of AMP Tip. She did not indicate willingness to address the screenwriter issues. WGA said in a memo that AMP Tip signaled it would not include a counter to the proposed requirements on hiring writers. Among these are requirements for a minimum number of writers, depending on the number of episodes of a greenlit TV series, with at least half of the writing staff employed through the duration of the production. So it can't be piecework. It can't be like, okay, you wrote 2 episodes and that's it. We're just going to hire people. Yeah. Well, the WGA has argued that the proposal is necessary to preserve the writer's room. In reality, it's a hiring quota that is incompatible with the creative nature of our industry. She said, we don't agree with applying a one-size-fits-all solution to shows that are unique and different in their approach to creative staffing. I don't disagree with this.
No. And then, but we want job security, we want a salary, we want all this other stuff. And it's like, it's gig work. I'm sorry. As I've said in other videos, and I'm going to say it again for those who are stupid. It's gig work. That's the nature of Hollywood. I mean, some people do get staff writing positions or positions that are paid and you're there because they want to keep you and keep you away from their competitors for the good people.
Yeah.
It is gig work. I don't care if you're an actor. I don't care if you are a director. I don't care if you're a writer. I don't care if you work on other elements of the movie industry. It is a gig job. If there's a production going on and you're a part of that production, you're not guaranteed to be part of the next production. You have to go find another, get assigned to that production, find another place to hire you to bring you in. That's how, this is. I mean, that's not for every job, obviously, but for a lot of these jobs, that's how it is.
So this
you know that going in.
Yeah, well, this is one of the major sticking points. Again, the residuals I'll give you, the AI, I think that needs to be regulated on some level, or at least disclosed if you're using bots. But on the labor side, dozens of WGA members have told The Wrap over the past 3 months that ensuring that the writer's room remains a major part of the entire production process, as it has been for decades, is an essential part of why they're striking. So let's just, put time in a bottle. Let's just stop progress. Because
but the writer's room isn't being eliminated. They're just not hiring more people than they need because they're mandating minimums.
Writers have spoken out against mini rooms, which they say have proliferated in Hollywood with the rise of streaming and have made it difficult for writers to find steady work and gain experience. They have warned that the rise in writers only finding employment in mini rooms is the beginning, and they predict further erosion when it comes to employment.
Let me get this straight. Okay. So they want residuals for shows that are on streaming that make a lot of money, breakout shows. They should get paid more. Okay, fair.
Yes, that's fair.
But they also want to complain about mini rooms because of streaming.
So this whole thing, basically the writer's room traditionally had a bunch of people in it. It varied depending on the show, but you're talking about, shows that were produced daily or weekly sitcoms that had, 26 episodes a season that required a lot of writing. In the new reality, in the streaming reality, some of these shows only have like 6, 8, or 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. And some of them are overseen by the showrunner and a couple other people. Like Stranger Things is one of the biggest hits on Netflix, and it's the Duffer Brothers and a couple other people that write all the episodes because they only have like 10 episodes a season.
Right. So, but they're like, we don't get experience because of that. Well,
I go write some Amazon books. I don't know what to tell.
We hate streaming because we don't get residuals. But we want residuals for shows that perform well. We don't want mini rooms because then we don't get in because we don't like streaming.
I don't know what the expectation is. I don't think they realize what the new financial reality is. And I hate to take the side of the studios on this one. I really do. Because we pan these studios all the time for stupid decisions. But as independent content creators, I'm like, welcome to the party. This is what it's like to be.
This is hilarious. Okay, this is Adam Conover.
Adam Conover doesn't know shit.
Wait,
I thought he was smarter than this.
This is funny, right?
All right.
Right now, a studio might offer a show creator an incentive to not hire a staff at all. So that's an incentive? What's that tell you? If you're giving a creator the incentive, it's a reward that you don't have to hire staff. Okay? That's actually considered an incentive. What does that tell you about the writers they're working with? That they find it better to not have to work with them. Okay? But 5 years from now, they're going to offer that. They're not going to offer that incentive anymore.
So you're going to be sorry after you get your millions and millions and millions of dollars. You're going to be real sorry that, 10 years ago,
But right now, a studio might offer a show creator an incentive to not hire a staff at all.
Yes. So you know how we
it comes across.
We talk about help and anti-help on this channel. We talk about help and anti-help, where sometimes it's better to not have any help than to have bad help. That's what's going on. Sometimes it's easier for the showrunner to just work by themselves or with a partner or with a skeleton crew to get shit done than it is to run it through a fucking committee.
I mean, I think most people will just take more money.
Yeah, especially
deal with these people.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's a win-win for a competent showrunner who is also a writer, and these people have already gotten their deal. I guess the WGA or whatever they're making deals for a competent showrunner who is also a writer. It makes more sense to just do it yourself or do it with a couple of people you trust than to have to hire a bunch of freaking morons
that you have to run everything through. And this person's an activist. So you have to run everything through there with their lens.
Does this offend you, Susan? I'm sorry.
This person is, super far or whatever, and you have to run it through all their lenses. And it's like, yeah, they probably get more. So it's an incentive to them. They get paid more to not hire people, or to you can have more money if you don't hire a staff.
Right.
But it's an incentive because you don't have to deal with these dipshits, So I'm like, and then in a few years, you're not going to be able to have the option to even hire staff.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is in a few years, they're going to realize the system works better when it's streamlined.
You ever heard of too many cooks in the kitchen?
That's exactly it. So they're basically Gordon Ramsaying
Adam just
Hollywood.
ruined everything for you. Good job.
Adam just ruined everything for you. Adam basically gave the studios an incentive to not hire these writers because he spelled it out. He's like, yeah.
They're not going to tell you to write they're going to tell you to write the show yourself, which is probably, and maybe a freelance writer or two, which is what they're basically doing now. But they're not going to allow for a writer's room. They're not going to even pay weekly.
Okay. So,
reality for most people.
Adam Conover, have you ever had a real job outside of Hollywood? I'm really starting to wonder. So how it works, like let's look at anime. Do you know how long they have to wait to get paid? Those studios have to wait to get paid over there. There are people, they hated taking Netflix deals because they wouldn't get paid forever. And I completely agree. In a perfect world, it would be great that everybody got paid weekly. Usually how it works is you have your own production company and you have your staff and you pay your staff. Okay, it's your job as the head of the production company to keep the money flowing so you can pay your staff, which means you have to juggle multiple projects and all that. Just like any other freelancer, contractor, whatever on any creative endeavor, whether it's video games or comic books or whatever it is, why should Hollywood be immune to that? Why do they have to be special?
But he has more to say. That's why we're pushing to have in our contract that shows have to be staffed the way that every show has been staffed for 70 years. Because streaming isn't like every show for the last 70 years. It's different. You guys are all yelling, you want residuals because streaming is different than how the industry was in the past. Streaming has different metrics. Streaming has different things. We should get residuals based on that. While also having everything the same as it's been in the past because then we can all be hired. You cannot have it both fucking ways. I mean, you can, but it's going to get,
Adam Conover. God, I thought you were smarter than this. You're an old man screaming at clouds. You are. You're like, I want everything to be the way it's been for the last 70 years. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you want mostly white writers' room then? Mm-hmm. White men and the writers? Sure.
You don't want streaming anymore, so the residuals is no longer an issue.
So now we only have like 5 or 6 primetime shows that you can work on.
And that eliminates most of your writers right there.
Yeah, there you go. And it's going to be staffed with mostly white dudes.
Comes to streaming, everything that comes to streaming, we want streaming to be treated as if it was a primetime show from 40 years ago.
Yeah, this is not the Cosby Show, okay? Those days, for the most part, are over. I don't even think, are there any like major sitcoms on the air right now?
I don't even know. I don't pay attention.
Like, not like there used to be. Not even like 5 or 6 years. Like even 5 or 6 years ago, there were major sitcoms on. We had.
I just watch reality TV and K-dramas. So,
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. Because you know what? You could shut down, and I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to ruin everything for you, Adam. You could shut down Hollywood for a couple of years, not produce a damn new thing, and the general public will just move on to other forms of entertainment.
There's lots of other stuff in other countries.
So much other content out there. I'm just saying,
they're just asking for.
You are giving them reasons.
We want this, we want that, and some of them are in conflict with each other. Some of the things that they're asking
we just want things to be the way they were forever, but also paid more.
And also, we want streaming residuals and all this new stuff, but we don't want that stuff. We want the writing room to be like it was before that.
Okay. Right, Hollywood writers, WGA, you need to switch out Adam Conover with somebody else, anybody else, because he's not doing you any favors. He's actually making a damn good case for why the studios shouldn't play ball with you.
If you would just lay off the bullshit with the mandated minimum writers in the writers' room, you get this thing over with. Does it mean they're probably going to cut a lot of the writers in the writers' room? Yes. Does it mean that it's probably going to put more work on the ones that are left? Most likely. Is it right? I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying it's probably the reality of the situation. But you know what people have been dealing with in the real world for years? Your work needs to cut people. So they cut 10 people and then they put the work they were doing on the people that were there already. Is it right? No. But is it like what everybody else has to deal with on a daily basis? Yes. And I'm just like, you guys are just being ridiculous. If they're going to cut the amount of shows, which they already are cutting because the streaming services are not, it's costing them more money than they thought. They're not bringing the subscribers they thought. This isn't the pandemic era anymore. They cannot afford to do the shows they were doing before, the amount. So that means there's going to be less jobs.
You know what's so weird about this? The people that are standing, they're not even members of the WGA. They're wannabes that want to work in Hollywood, you know, and they're not even members. And they are standing so hard for the writers, and they're like, yeah, we all need this, we all need that, whatever. Meanwhile, they're working for a company that treats them like absolute shit. They're treated so much worse than Hollywood writers have ever been treated. And they're all like, you go get yours.
Here's what they're going to have to do. And a lot of them probably don't have the money to do this, but here's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to subscribe to every streaming service.
Yeah, you want to support them, yeah.
And you're going to need to watch as many shows as you can possibly watch in all your downtime, because you have to support these shows to make sure that these studios know that people are watching these shows so they can hire more writers. And then after they hire more writers and they bring you win and you get your way, then there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be suddenly unemployed, because then the studios are going to get hit with a bunch of shows when the reality sinks in that no one watched. People just watched to try to boost the numbers for the writers. And then you're still going to be in the same situation you were in to begin with. It just took longer to get there.
So that's okay. And I actually love Amp Tip's comeback, because this is every other business. We'll get to it, but here they said that the Directors Guild of America reached a deal on streaming residuals that was based on total subscriber counts rather than viewership. I don't necessarily agree with that. Both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA have pushed for more compensation for shows that draw more viewers on streaming. I do agree with that. But Amp Tip has staunchly refused to base compensation on such data, and its response to the proposal, high-ranking studio executives tell The Wrap that such a stance extends to the WGA, as the studios would rather offer a significant residual increase similar, if not identical, to the one negotiated with the WGA.
I'm sure they would.
The union is proposing that performers share in the rewards of a successful show without bearing any of the risk, Amp Tip said. Under the union's proposal, performers would be entitled to receive not only the existing fixed residual, which is paid to the performer even if no one's watching the program, but also a new residual which shares in revenue that is somehow attributed to the show. The union proposes to share in success, but not in failure. That's not sharing.
So basically, if the show fails, you should be losing money. You shouldn't get your residuals if the show fails, but you want extra residuals if it's a success. What they're saying is, if you right now, you get it no matter what.
This is also true. They said it's easy to say the companies are all related, because they said you can't create a one-size-fits-all approach to this, right? So they can pay themselves. That's not how it works. They said many producers regularly create content for streaming services that are not part of their own corporate family, and even those that are producing for a related streaming service are entitled to nothing more than a license fee. That is actually true. That is actually true. A lot of the content that you're watching, if you see like 50 different logos before the movie or that's because they're all sharing in the risk of creating that content.
Right, because they're expensive to make these shows. And yeah, you have like 10 different like production companies working on it.
So I think what is going to possibly happen because of this is we're going to have more producer showrunner types that are basically smaller studios creating content on their own terms and having like a Netflix or a Disney Plus or whatever the hell's around picking those up. They may or may not be part of the union, but they can, like, it would be easier if I were Netflix. It'd be easier for me, rather than trying to micromanage all these people they're picketing, just be like, you know what, we can do this and we can cut deals with all these people, or we can say, hey, we're buying or licensing shows that somebody else spent their own money on, or maybe we'll co-finance it, but they put their own team together.
That's why they're bringing in shows from Korea and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll help them with the money, but they handle it. And then we don't have to deal with these people because that's their problem.
Well, like they're going down here and they're talking about, basically, that the WGA backed a public sentiment that overwhelmingly supports the SAG-AFTRA and other unions, has not backed down from the contract package it has said is necessary to prevent what was once one of Los Angeles' signature middle-class professions from becoming a gig economy inside a union workforce. It's been Again, you might have been hired by a studio, and for some people that's not the case. You know, it's not a good economy. But I don't care. Even for the last 70 years, you're on a show. When that show's over,
yeah,
you have to go. You have to either get assigned to their show, or you have to go get hired to another show. That still means it was a gig for that show. It might have lasted like 10 seasons, but that's still a gig. You're not hired at this company perpetually forever. That's called a gig. That's what Hollywood pretty much is.
I mean, I agree with a lot of the producers on this one because they're the ones that are actually fronting the money. They're the ones taking the loans out. They're the ones making all the deal. And again, the reason you'll see a whole bunch of logos before production is because that's all the people that chipped in money, their own money. You know, what you should do is be like, fine, okay, you want a bigger cut? How much money are you going to put toward producing this show? Mm-hmm. Because you're just the hired help.
Well, they get residuals either way. Either the show bombs. The producers do not lose money, and the studios lose money, but they don't. The gains are really high the other way too, but
no risk, no reward. I think that's the way it should be. I think they should work out a system that is similar to how publishing works, traditional publishing, where you get kind of an advance, and then if you want more, you got to perform. And if you don't pay back that advance, then sometimes you're on the hook for it. Some publishers, actually, you're on the hook for it. They might give you an advance, but they're like, yeah, your book bombed. Guess what? You got to pay some of that shit back.
Well, the studios failed. None of them are getting paid, so it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
This up.
We're going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.